Your source for everything paranormal. Parax.
Throughout the ages, history has been altered by word of mouth and the misrepresentation of those who might not have been present when some of the world's most significant events took place. Channelers Barry and Connie Strohm bring through the spirits of those who actually witnessed or took part in these historical events and lets them tell their stories in their own words. Welcome to Channeling History. And now, here are your hosts, Barry and Connie Strohm.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Channeling History. By now, you should know that we're the only show where all our guests have passed and are on the other side, and we're brought to you every Sunday night on the Parax Radio Network. On this Memorial Day weekend, I would ask that you please take a moment to remember all the individuals that gave the ultimate sacrifice to protect our freedoms. I know it's easy to forget all of those in the past, but just go to a military cemetery sometime and you will realize just how many individuals died so that we can be doing this tonight. I'm Barry Strohm, your host, and I will be doing the channeling.
And I'm Connie Strohm, your co-host, and I will be asking the questions of our spirit guest this evening. Last week, we channeled the spirit of Charles Darwin, the famous naturalist. He gave us some great insight into the evolution of man. We highly recommend that you listen to the show. It's very educational. All of our channelings, over 250 videos, are available on our YouTube channel. Tonight, we will be speaking with the spirit of Edgar Cayce, who was one of the greatest psychics of all time. He was a medical intuitive and clairvoyant that was capable of accurate diagnosis of illness and also providing the cure for the illness. He also gave readings and predictions. Tonight, we're going to learn a lot about psychic abilities. As always, we welcome your participation through the chat room.
Okay, we never know in advance what our guests are going to say. So it's always prudent that we include a bit of a disclaimer. So the opinions, statements voiced on our show are the channeled words of the spirits, do not necessarily reflect our opinions, those of the Parax Radio Network or our sponsors. Now, we are currently doing 2 other podcasts each week in addition to this radio show. One's a weekly message from Jesus, in which we bring a message of faith and inspiration to help guide us through the current troubled times. We post the new messages from Jesus on Wednesdays on our YouTube channel. Sunday mornings, we channel a message from a Holy Spirit on Eternity Speaks. You can hear all of these on our YouTube channel.
I would like to thank all of you that take the time to listen to our show and even join us in the chat room sometimes. Please tell your friends about us so we can continue to grow our audience. We welcome suggestions for future guests and questions. Our email is channelinghistoryoonparax@gmail.com.
Okay, before we channel, we always say a prayer of protection. The prayer gives us protection from the other side. We never know when there's evil out there. So Connie's going to say the prayer, and we'll get on with the show and our channeling with Edgar Cayce.
God, please grant us your wisdom and protection. Grant us the knowledge that we can handle and keep us safe from all things that will harm us. Keep the messages positive and pure love. Keep us safe from our egos. We ask these things in the light of the seen, the unseen, and the honesty of God. Amen.
Okay, Connie, I've been really looking forward to this. I do have a bit of psychic ability myself, and I'm looking forward to being able to talk to the master. So let's begin.
Okay. First of all, I'd like to thank Edgar for joining us. Would you like to begin with a message?
Yes, I would. First of all, I would like to thank you for allowing me to come through tonight. I lived quite a while ago now. I've been dead over 70 years. I was gifted. God saw to it that I had the ability to do things other people couldn't do. I had psychic abilities, and I tried to do my best to use them to help others. I firmly believe that God gives us these abilities in order to assist others in their lives. I never got paid a lot of money for what I did. I had many, many people come to me through the years. There were thousands of them. I started facilities to help others. We started a hospital. We did many things. I'm actually kind of amazed that people still know my name so well today. There have been a lot of books that are written about me. There are a lot of things that people still don't know about my life. So anyway, thank you for having me. I hope that I will be able to answer your questions sufficiently.
I'm sure you will. Could you start with telling us about your psychic happenings in your early life when you were a child?
I always had these psychic abilities. I would be able to see spirits. Sometimes I would actually be playing with child ghosts. I know that my mother and father thought I was a little bit nuts when I tried to explain what was taking place. I actually saw my deceased grandfather and could describe him to them, so they realized that something must have been going on. I started trying to help people even at an early age. I know the other kids thought that I was crazy, but I honestly did see these things. I didn't realize that I was going to be able to trance and speak other messages in my early age, but I had the abilities from almost the time that I had memory.
Edgar, did you really study by sleeping on your books?
Actually, I did. I couldn't. My mind would wander. Obviously, when you're seeing spirits and have these type of abilities, concentration and focus can be very difficult. So one night in my dreams, I was told that if I put the book under me when I slept, that they would help me absorb the information that was in those books. The next morning when I woke up, I knew everything that was in the book, so I continued to do it. Whenever I had a test or had to study, I would sleep on the books and I would absorb the information. Keep in mind that I didn't have much of an education. I really had to quit school in the 9th grade. In those days, people thought that if you were in the working class, that was sufficient education.
Okay, you were a student of the Bible, you taught Sunday school, and you were a devout Christian. The Bible states that psychics were to be avoided and you were communicating with the devil. How did you reconcile your ability to communicate with the spirits with Christian teachings?
It was truly very difficult for me. I had read the Bible, I studied it, I believed in God, and I felt that the Bible represented His true words. I also knew that in the Gospels they were describing my people with my abilities. I felt that if I tried to help others to learn the Bible and to understand God, that whatever abilities I would have been given would have been accepted by God. I know other Christians looked at me and thought that I needed to repent for what I was doing, but I was truly helping others. In my mind, I felt that if you helped others, that everything was fine. I thought that if I was doing anything wrong, that the spirits would come to me and let me know it. I also felt that if I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing, that they wouldn't be giving me the information.
And you were correct. Okay, you were famous as a medical intuitive. Will you tell us how that worked?
I would go into a trance, and I would start to speak words. I would never know the words that I was speaking because I was in this trance. Spirit would come in and take over my body. They would put the words in my mouth and I would speak them. The first several times it happened, I was amazed by it myself. I never realized that I had this ability. But once I started to understand what was taking place, I fully realized that I could help many others. Now that I'm on the other side, I realized that it was my guides that were giving me this information. They felt that by working through me, I could be a great assist to many people that otherwise could possibly not afford such medical care. Generally, a lot of the things that I was telling them would be a type of common sense to eat better, cut certain things out of their diet. But in certain instances, I had very, very specific information with names that I couldn't even pronounce when I wasn't in a trance. This was the way that I think the guides protected me. I think that if I had been doing this and if I remembered all of it, that I would have had an informational overload, and emotionally I would not have been able to handle it. It was truly a miracle that God gave me. And as I've said many times, I tried to help as many as I could.
How was it possible for you to go into a trance state on demand?
That, I'm not sure I know how to answer that one. I would lay down and I would focus on basically trying to go into a light sleep state. I would clear my mind, and then all of a sudden, I would be in that state, and I would be speaking the words of the spirits. It was a very unique thing. I know when I wasn't doing the words of the spirits that I had trouble sleeping at night. I would often have to take meds to try to have me fall asleep. And that made it even more difficult for me to understand. All I can tell you is that when God wants you to do something, he will give you the ability to do it.
Yes, we know about that. Could you tell us about the curing of your wife with her tuberculosis?
Yes, she was very ill. The doctors told her that she really had nowhere to turn with medical science. I tried to find a cure for her. They told us things to do. We changed her diet. We did many things, all of which were messages that were given to me in a trance state. She followed the directions that she was given, and she was basically cured of her illness. It was one of the best examples of God intervening to cure someone as I had ever seen. And I cannot tell you how thankful it was that he chose my wife.
I can believe that. Sadly, you had a child die at an early age. Why did you not use your abilities to cure your own child?
We were still struggling with what I was doing. I was unsure whether I was truly doing God's work at that time. My wife was very unsure as well, and we were getting a lot of family pressure. They were all good Christians. They had all read the Gospels, and they all had read the part that when you are communicating with the other side, that you're communicating with the devil. We should have followed the words that were given to me. We hesitated. We did not do what they said. And sadly, we paid the price for it.
Will you tell us about God?
First of all, I would tell you that God is very real. He is truly a universal energy. He can do basically anything of which he pleases. He has sent humans back to progress, to learn. He watches over everyone. Sometimes it is very hard to describe God. You never see him, but you know he's always there. You feel his energy. You hear his messages. He communicates with you. You know when he is there. You you feel his energy, but you never really see him. When God takes a form, he takes the form of Jesus. We do see Jesus over here. We have conversations with him. He speaks of what he would prefer humans to do. Sadly, they don't follow his directions, and therefore he keeps sending back his messengers to try to lead humans. God on this planet has decided to give humans free will. How they use that free will determine how humans advance. He is continually sending people back to give messages of how he would like them to live. His energy is in the hearts of all humans, as is in the hearts of all other individuals on other planets as well. Many people don't believe in God because they can't see him. They don't hear him. They don't feel him. And it's very sad. But he sent humans back to have faith. If you don't have that faith, then it's quite possible you don't believe in him. But I guarantee you, when you return home and you come into his heaven, you will totally understand that he truly exists. And really all he wants is for humans to advance. But the reality is, many just simply do not follow his messages.
True. One of our listeners would like to know what level of heaven you're on, which realm.
I have served him many times, and I am on the seventh realm. That is the highest, and I'm very close to all of the other souls that are trying to serve him as well. He sends people back that he can trust to bring his messages. He does that, and he asks us to serve. We try to do our best when we're on this level. I'm here tonight to try to bring you messages. I'm going to tell you about my special abilities, and I'm going to try to tell you what it's really like.
Okay. Now that you're on the other side, could you tell us about prayer?
Prayer is truly how you communicate with the other side. All words of prayer are heard. You can ask other holy forms for help. You can pray to Mother Mary, the other disciples. You can pray to your angels. Angels are also very real. When I was alive, I actually saw angels. That was one of the visions that would come to me and try to give me help and understanding of what I was doing. Prayer is the key to communication with the other side.
Okay. What is the importance of meditation?
For some people, meditation is the one way that you can communicate with spirits on the other side of the veil. Now, there are many people that can't meditate. For those people, they'll often get their messages through dreams. They may see images, they may hear words. But for the vast majority of people, the easiest way to have contact with the other side is by clearing your mind, asking to hear messages, and having your mind and body totally at rest. For some, meditation is the key, but as I said, there's many that have trouble with meditation.
Yes. Will you tell us about the actions of an evil energy?
There is much evil. They are energies that are trying to guide you away from the true messages that will lead to helping people evolve. All humans come in contact with evil energy. It can be parents that don't love their children. It can be many, many things. It can be desires. It can be your will to try to make as much money as you can possibly make. It can be killing others. It can be almost anything that goes against the messages of God. Souls never enter the human plane with evil energy. Life plans do not include evil. It is only through the actions of evil that humans learn and are distracted from the true paths for which they are sent back.
What is the purpose of a human life?
Souls are sent back to human lives so that they can participate in a learning experience that hopefully will guide them when they return back to heaven. There are 7 realms of heaven, and each one is better than the other. Souls have to learn lessons in order to advance in heaven. Souls have lessons that must be learned. It may be suffering, it may be grief, it may be many different things. A human life is not an easy life. It can be very, very difficult in many ways, but that is why souls choose to return to earth. It gives them many opportunities. It gives them many opportunities to ignore evil energy. It gives them many opportunities to help others. A human life is certainly not an easy life.
Okay, we have a few questions from our listeners. One, did you come back as David Wilcox?
It is possible to influence others. I tried to influence David. I have not reincarnated as David Wilcox, but I have given him a part of my soul energies. I am still on the other side, or you would not be able to talk to me. It is possible to split your soul energies and let humans have a portion of your abilities, but I am truly still on the other side.
Okay, and another listener would like to know, did you suffer when after you would see something traumatic and have to deliver messages to people? Did that make you suffer a lot?
I would have no memory of the messages I would deliver in trance. Quite often I would have to deliver messages that were very sad and troubling. It would bother me when people told me what I had spoken in trance at times. But I think that is one of the reasons that I did not remember what I was saying. If I had truly remembered every word, I think that I would have had immense emotional problems.
Could you tell us about the principle of oneness?
All soul energies are basically one energy. God is an energy, and He's instilled that energy in all of us. And even though there is a uniqueness among souls when they return, there is a basically energy of one. We are all one. We are all one in spite of different racial differences, in spite of different religions, in spite of different looks. Humans have to understand the concept that all souls basically are the same. Once they understand this theory of one, then they will be able to get along. They will be able to show love to one another, and they will not feel many of the separations that they have today. Humans are still very, very far away from grasping the concept of one.
Will you explain the importance of soul development?
Soul development has to take place if you are going to advance in the realms of heaven. As you advance in the realms, you can return with greater abilities, greater powers. When I returned, I was given great psychic abilities to help others. When I helped all those other people, my soul helped develop as well. It is through helping others that the soul advances. When humans learn that lesson, then they will truly be able to advance, and they will be able to obtain technologies that will lead them on development far beyond their greatest imaginations.
Okay, another question out of our chat room. Are you familiar with Dolores Moore from Hartford, Connecticut?
I know the name, but I'm not totally familiar with it.
Then you most likely don't know what level of heaven she's in.
No, I do not have contact with all people. You have to understand that when you're on this side that you do not know everything. Yeah. You know much more than you do as a human, but there is no soul on this side that has the answers to all questions. Yeah. Not even an individual guide can answer all things. That's why you have many, many different guides.
Yes, that's what we've been told. So now that you are on the other side, can you observe both the past and the present?
We can observe the past very easily. What you have to understand about the future is that it's based on current events that are taking place. The future can change because events in the near term can change. So we can see some things in the future. Many things can change. Even though we see the future at an instant, things can change, and that future will no longer be the same. That is one reason why sometimes psychics do not have total accuracy in their future predictions. Keep in mind that if a psychic gives a future prediction, it cannot change life plans. Life plans are to be lived by the individuals that made those plans. If a person could look into the future and give an individual advice that would change his life plan, that would not be acceptable over here.
Okay. Will you explain psychic abilities to us?
Psychic abilities come in many forms. When you speak my words, you're showing a psychic ability. Many people can see things. Many people can hear things. There are many, many different types of abilities. All humans, when they're born, have some certain type of psychic abilities. As they grow older, things change in their lives, and many of them lose those abilities in life. If an individual continues throughout their life plan to attempt to communicate with spirit, talk to their guides, meditate, most people would be able to maintain what you're referring to as psychic abilities. A psychic ability is basically a type of communication with those of us on this side of the veil. Okay, let's take a small break here. We'll be back in a couple minutes, and we will continue with our channeling with Edgar Cayce.
Don't go away. Channeling History will return right after these brief messages.
In order for the light to shine so brightly, the darkness must be present. Tune in every Monday at 10 o'clock. The Dark Sun Rising on the Para-X Radio Network.
Hi, this is Marla Brooks from Stirring the Cauldron. Thursdays are a great night on the Para-X Radio Network. We start off the evening with Journey into the Light, Chapter 3, with your hosts, Psychic Little T and Tabby Cat Gash at 7 p.m. Eastern. Then, on the first and third Thursdays of the month at 8 p.m., it's Tango and Friends, hosted by Bruce Tango. And on the alternate Thursdays at 8 p.m., tune in to Stirring the Cauldron, the Archive podcast. Every week at 9 p.m. Eastern, join me on Stirring the Cauldron Live. And then at 10 p.m., stick around for New Aeon Now with Lily Alley, Davron Michaels, and Christine Matza. Finally, to round out the night, join Dr. Kelly Renee Schutz on the Paranormal Encounters podcast. All this every Thursday, right here on Para X.
Have you ever wondered what Jesus and his followers would say if you could receive their messages today? In his new book, Spirits Speak, Channeling Jesus and the Holy Spirits, channeler and author Barry Strohm answers those questions for you. Using his gift of spirit communication, he brings you messages from such Holy Spirits as Moses, John the Baptist, Mary Magdalene, Mother Mary, Jesus, and even Mother Teresa and the Reverend Billy Graham. They discuss topics that are important for contemporary life in these troubled times. Spirits Speak, Channeling Jesus and the Holy Spirits is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and other booksellers. Signed copies are available on the author's website, spiritspredict.com. After reading this book, you will never again say, "What would Jesus say or do?" Welcome back to Channeling History. Now, here are your hosts, Barry and Connie Strohm.
Okay, everybody, welcome back. Connie, let's move on with some questions.
Okay, before we get back to our questions, we have made up one quick question out of the chat room. Can you tell people how to cure diabetes?
Many people can have a great effect on curing diabetes through diet. It is important that people cut the sugars out of their diet. Now, I know this is nothing new. If you eat healthy, if you do things that are healthy in your life, you have to get exercise, maintain weight control, then you will find that medications can be of a much greater help to you, and you will take quite fewer of them. Curing diabetes starts with lifestyle. You can do many things holistically. If you do all those, you will find that you will have a reduction in medications, but it is a very serious disease, and it needs for you to keep in close contact with your doctor.
Yeah. Edgar, is there such a thing as the Akashic Records?
Each individual carries in their own minds a book of their lives. That is truly how people can do hypnotic regressions and speak to you of your prior lives. The information is accessible to the guides, and once you come to this side, the information will be available to you. Now, there is an overall record of life. Humans refer to that as an Akashic record. On another planet, they would obviously refer to it differently. But there is an overall record of everything that takes place, which the guides and God have access to.
You say that Akashic Records and the Book of Life are one and the same.
No, they're different. Your Book of Life covers your life. The Akashic Records cover all life and events that have taken place on Earth.
Okay, how did you access an individual's Akashic Records?
In actuality, I was accessing their books of life. I was getting their individual information. I felt that I was accessing Akashic Records, but that was not the case.
Okay, how does your Book of Life affect your life plan?
your life plan is based on events that you and lessons that you learned in your prior lives. Your book of life has everything that you learned in those lives. So that becomes the information source upon which future life plans are built.
Okay. You spoke of many things about the life of Jesus. You said he traveled to India and Egypt. Was that information accurate?
No. I found when I returned home that some of the information that I was given was not accurate. There were times that when I was in trance, other spirits would enter and give me some bad information. And I was unable to determine when the information was correct or not. When I returned over here, I realized that Jesus had never traveled to India and Egypt.
Was he taught by the Essence Society?
No. Jesus actually lived a very normal life. He was taught by his parents. He was taught by some of the religious leaders of the time. And he was especially taught by the angels and guides. The Essene Society never really was a source of information for Jesus.
Okay, you said that Jesus had previous lives on earth. Was that accurate?
No, once again, that was not accurate. God only returned to an incarnate form one time as Jesus. God had sent many of his messengers back previously, but Jesus was the incarnate form of God, and he only ever lived that one single life.
Yeah. Was there an advanced civilization named Atlantis?
Yes, there actually were early civilizations, and one of them was named Atlantis. It did truly exist.
Where was it located?
It was located close to current-day Bermuda. The islands upon which Atlantis thrived are now underwater. It was a fairly large civilization. It was not as large as many of the informations that I was given, but it did exist, and it also ceased to exist.
Yeah, how did the civilization end, and what happened to the people of Atlantis?
The people of Atlantis were actually quite advanced. The aliens from other planets had assisted them in their technologies. They showed them energy forms, and much like humans today, they abused those energy forms, and a calamity took place. Coupled with that calamity, the oceans rose, and through the movement of the tectonic plates, the islands that were Atlantis were moved under the oceans so that there is no trace of them today.
Is there any significance to the location of the planets and the stars at the time a person is born?
You're referring to the whole science of astrology.
Yes.
There can be information gained from locations of the planets and stars. Your birth does not tie into any specific location of planets and stars. It takes place, and the most important thing is the life plan that you have when you come forward. There are things to be learned from the stars and the planets, but there is little significance of their location at your time of birth.
Can the locations of the planets and stars affect any part of one's life?
There are different energies of the universe. There are energies that occur when stars and bodies line up. There are patterns that take place that will repeat themselves. But many of the decisions that you make in your life will have very little relationship to the locations of stars or planets.
Okay, I've been looking forward to your answer to this question. What is the significance of a person's dreams?
Your dreams can have many, many significances. There can be events that are foretold in your dreams. Spirits can come to you in your dreams. Deceased family members can appear. You can receive messages. You can learn much in your dreams. It is possible that alien presences can come to you and give you information. You can see events that may take place, and you can see things in your past lives. All this takes place in your subconscious. As you sleep, your subconscious can raise in its vibrations, and it can communicate better with spirits on the other side. Your subconscious plays an extremely important part in how you live your conscious life.
What about the person who has no memory of their dreams?
There are people that have no memory of their dreams. That means that they do not consciously record what's taking place in their subconscious. That does not mean that things are not taking place in your subconscious. It just simply means that you're not aware of it.
Does each soul return with a unique life purpose?
Yes. Each soul has got life lessons that they must learn that's included in their life plan. They return with each soul returns with a unique purpose. How they respond to their free will indicates how close they will maintain to their life plan.
Okay, how can a person best find what that life purpose is?
That can be very difficult. If an individual truly understood their life purpose, then free will would have little effect. They would know exactly what they're supposed to be doing. A human must make free will decisions. They are given information. They are given messages. Their guides speak to them, try to influence. But it is up to each individual to make that individual decision. How they make those decisions will determine if they follow that life plan. And if they follow that life plan, they will know their life purpose. I know that is not a very concise answer for people, but communicate with your guides and follow what they tell you. Follow your hunches. Watch how things take place around you. Many of the events in your lives are staged to conform to decision points in your life plan. Try to always do what is right, help others, and I think you will find that you will be following your life purpose.
Is it possible for a psychic to tell another person their life purpose?
Not really. You have to be very wary of a psychic telling you that, because if you truly know your life purpose, it affects your decision making and your free will.
Will you tell us about reincarnation?
Reincarnation is absolute. Your soul has lived many, many incarnate lives previous to the one in which you're currently living. You've lived lives on other planets before humans walked the earth. Your soul energy has been around since creation, and that soul energy has been living lives and learning lessons. Throughout time, those lessons have reflected upon your growth in heaven, and those reincarnations and lessons learned reflect where your soul will be when it returns from this incarnation.
Okay. Another good question from our chat room. How do you discern true dream messages from random thoughts?
That can be very difficult. I know Barry has trouble understanding whether the thoughts are his or those of spirits. What he does is he follows the thoughts that he feels are right. He's very familiar with the lessons of God, and he knows if you're having thoughts that are differing from those messages, that those are probably incorrect. It can be very difficult. Pray for direction and pray that your guides influence you to making the right decisions.
Okay, Christians reject reincarnation. Since you were a devout Christian, how did you reconcile with the fact that you were verifying reincarnation?
It was incredibly difficult for me because I firmly believed every word of the Bible was correct. There were things that did not seem to be correct. And as I followed my path, I learned that there were things in variance with the Bible that were absolutely the words of God and were correct. I came to understand how religions had influenced the Gospels, and many things, such as psychics should be ignored and are speaking with the devil, were put in because psychics were basically bringing the truth to congregations, and in many instances, the religions of the time did not want the truth. They wanted the people to rely on them for salvation.
How does karma affect a human life?
How you influence others influence how you will be treated in the future. If you lived a life where you made great wealth and did not help others, you're creating a karma. That karma will be repaid in your future life plan. For instance, in that future life plan, instead of great wealth, you may be a person that requires much aid from others. How you live your life affects how you will lead your future life. Karma is very real.
So how does free will affect the path of a soul?
You make your own decisions. You have no excuse for decisions that are made concerning your life. Evil is going to try to influence you every day of that incarnate life. You have to know right from wrong. You have to believe, you have to have faith, and you have to do things that will lead to advancement when you arrive on the other side.
Okay. How does reincarnation allow us to make a better use of the present?
Reincarnation will allow you to base decisions on what appears in your subconscious about those prior lives. All prior lives are learning experiences. How those experiences reflect what you do in this current life becomes a result of influence of your guides and how free will comes into play.
Okay. Was there a single origin for man, like Adam and Eve?
No, the story of Adam and Eve in creation is not accurate. What has taken place is God created creatures that had the souls of man. It was done in many places simultaneously, just like humans developed in Africa, they would develop in Asia, they would develop with different skin colors, they would speak different languages, they would formulate different religions. God's plan was very complex for humans. He wanted them to have many, many different forms, but he hoped that they would understand the oneness of the soul and the oneness of returning to an afterlife, a heaven. The complexities of the origin man are pretty much beyond the current imagination.
So what was God's purpose for creating man?
He had to have a medium where souls could return to learn lessons. The human form presents a great opportunity for the soul to exercise free will and learn lessons that need to be learned.
Okay, we have another question from one of our listeners. Do things about your prior lives affect your thoughts and your feelings and your fears from your present life?
Absolutely. All of the memories cannot be erased from your subconscious because your subconscious reaches into your prior lives. That's why a person that drowned in their prior life might be afraid of the water in this life. You absolutely carry characteristics forward.
Okay. What would your reading be for Barry?
That's an interesting question. I would tell Barry that he has had many prior lives in which he was sent back to serve God. I would tell him that he's on a special mission, that he has been given a gift of psychic abilities that far exceed many of the abilities of others. His role is to help others through communication with the spirit souls on the other side. I would tell him that he would need to continue what he is doing for as long as he could do it.
In the 1930s, you incorrectly predicted chaos for several large cities, including Los Angeles, San Francisco, and New York City. Do you still foresee chaos in those cities?
Those predictions were given to me based on events that were occurring at that time. Events changed, and the chaos was delayed. Note that I say delayed. As you can see, there is much chaos in your cities today, but it is from poverty, it's from lack of education, it's from abuse of the youth, gangs. So you see, there really is great chaos taking place. I may have missed the date in the 1930s, but I think that what I predicted is beginning to take place at this time.
I do believe that's correct. There are many critics that state that your clairvoyant powers were faked. What would you tell those people?
I would tell them that they were absolutely not faked. I took very little money for my services. I tried my best to help people. There were times that I made mistakes, but there are times that any psychic will make mistakes. Having psychic abilities is not an exact science. You're given information. Sometimes the information is correct and sometimes it's not.
Yes, that's what we have found out too. There are many critics that state that your clairvoyant You made some predictions that did not come true, like China would become a Christian nation and there would be a second coming of Christ in 1998. What do you consider your worst prediction?
I should have never predicted a second coming of Christ. Now that I'm on the other side, I realize that Christ is never going to return. God may decide to return, but it will not be in the incarnate form of Jesus.
What do you consider your best prediction?
Oh, that's a tough one. I tried not to make many predictions. I thought that many things could change. I never truly understood. I'm not really sure that I could tell you what my best prediction was.
Okay, we are running out of time. Do you have a final message for us, Edgar?
Yes. First of all, I'd like to thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak. When I lived my life, I tried to help others. I was never motivated by making money. I tried to do the best I could. There were many things that I never understood about my abilities. I never actually heard the words of any of my readings because I was in trance. I think the spirits did this to protect me emotionally from what I was doing. Many times I would not be able to help people, but many times I did help people. I know that people criticized me. I knew that people of strict Christian upbringing thought I was speaking to the devil. I always remained a very, very staunch Christian. I thoroughly believed in God. I had trouble over connecting what I was doing to some of the words in the Gospels. When I returned, I found that many of the portions of the Gospel that I had problems with had been manipulated by the religions through the years. I hope that I've succeeded tonight in letting you listeners understand what it is like to have psychic abilities. I could speak to the other side. I could see the spirits. I never had any doubts of an afterlife. I knew from the time I could speak that there were spirits out there, and I knew that the soul would return to heaven, and I knew that there were many, many things that I would never understand. I hope that those of you listening will pay better attention to those that give you psychic advice. Through the ages, the psychics have been the ones that have been correct and truthful. Now, there are fakes. You will learn to understand those people that you cannot trust, but there are many that you can. So thank you. Thank you for allowing me to come through, and I hope that I've been of some service tonight.
You certainly have. Thank you very much, Edgar.
Okay, next week we're going to interview the spirit of the famous comedian Bob Hope. He was an incredible talent. He did much to serve the military, traveled around the world speaking to them, and he was a very funny person. I'm very much looking forward to being able to speak with him personally next week. You can submit your questions or suggestions for future shows through our email, channelinhistory@parax@gmail.com. My 7th book, Channeling Jesus and Holy Spirit, is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, where books are sold. It is also available on Kindle for immediate download for $2.99. I really enjoyed the show tonight. Speaking with such a great talent was just a wonderful time for me. So I hope that all of you will listen to our other shows on our YouTube channel. So my name, Barry Strohm. I want to thank Edgar Cayce for coming through, and I want to thank all of you for listening. Please join us on Sundays at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on the ParaX Radio Network.
And I would also like to thank you all for joining us. God bless you all. Have a wonderful week.
Thanks for listening to Channeling History. Tune in again next week for another electrifying episode, as we never know who will make an appearance or who will come through the portal. Any rebroadcast or other use of this program without explicit permission is strictly prohibited. Copyright 2020. Our Story Begins by Kevin MacLeod, licensed through Incompetech.com.